Starting. This hangout is on air and live. Hello, everybody. I'm RJ Carter with criticalblast.com, and this handsome gentleman next to me is Viral Van Plexico. We are coming to you live from Cosmic Comics here in Belleville, Illinois on Main Street. We're just going to talk about comics and geekery and all stuff that's cool. And we'll have Dapper Dave Dyer join us here in a little bit, the store owner. He's in the back working on a very special secret project that we can't tell you about, but we'll let him tell you about it. But today we've got Van Allen Plexico, and Van is the author of Vegas Heist and about 55 other things.
Something like that, yeah.
You want to show what you have a podcast too, right?
I have the White Rocket podcast, the On Her Majesty's Secret podcast, and the AU Wishbone podcast.
I can't keep up with this podcast. He's doing 3 of them. Obviously, this man has no job. But
oh Lord, I have jobs, but no, I squeeze it in where I can. So,
well, show us what you got here. You got a box of.
I brought a show and tell bin just for this special for this show. Comics. Our first comic book from White Rocket Productions came out last year, and we're still putting 2 and 3 together for a 3-part series. But this is Cold Lightning, and it's sort of a military sci-fi space opera type story set in my shattering universe. So it's basically, let me see, I think I got the tagline on the back, which is cool. A team of special forces soldiers must infiltrate the most secure facility in the galaxy to steal a weapon that can slay gods. And there's the back cover. Jared Albrick did the art on that, and it's we have a whole team that does these. And then the other comic book that we're working on right now should be out in a few weeks. Here's a little mock-up of the black and white art of the cover. Hold it still. Pulsar, Blind Date. The main superhero character in my superhero novel series is Pulsar, Lynn Lee, who is a teenager in basically fake San Francisco. And in the books, I never told how she and her boyfriend met. So we went back and did a one-shot comic book, Blind Date, where they meet each other for the first time and are immediately, of course, attacked by supervillains. Because that happens, you know.
Now, is she from your Sentinels series?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I think I have. That's the other thing. I brought the 3 omnibus books. Omnibuy? I don't know. Yeah. So all 9 Sentinels novels are collected in these 3 volumes. Here's volume 1, which is the Grand Design with Ezra Brackus on the cover.
That is a brick.
It's about 600 pages roughly. That's volume 1, 2, and 3 basically. And then volume 4, 5, and 6 is in omnibus 2, and there she is. That's Pulsar, and that's books 4, 5, and 6. It's called The Rivals. This is basically where they fight Galactus Celestials type.
So
level
this is
beings,
because this is all sort of a riff on the Avengers in the Marvel universe.
This is similar, just like the Avengers is a riff on the Justice League. Yeah,
fair point.
And then this is volume 3, which is called The Earth Kurbai War, and there's vanadium on the cover, and it's a little thinner. It's only about, I think, 558 pages long, and it's volumes 7, 8, and 9. So there's 9 volumes. And then when those came out, we put out an art book, which is oversized, which has all of Chris Kohler's interior art. Chris did 5 separate full-page illustrations for each of the 9 books, so that would equal math.
5 times 9.
45? Take the square root. Yeah. I think 45. And so we put all 45 pictures in here. We find a cool one. We put all 45 like that, or like, there's a cool one. I like this one a lot. That he did, and then we also talked about what's going on in the story, how Chris did it, and then how I reacted to it.
And if you ever see Van at a convention, you'll be easy to find because this artwork will be hanging on his banner, including, please tell me it's still there, that big, tall Lynn Lee painting.
Yeah, that one's still around, although my sister and my wife don't really like that one very much. Here's an example of, there's a cool picture of Pulsar inducting new members into the team, and on the trouble alert basically type thing, you see all the villains that she's teaching them about there. So anyway, we put it all together in one big book to celebrate Chris's art that he did over a decade, and it's neat to see how his artwork evolved over the years too, for those. So that's the Sentinels, and then there's also our little card game that we did based on the Sentinels. Ooh.
Now, where can people get this?
All of this stuff.
All of this.
Well, the books are all available on Amazon and things like that. Card game is only at wha't.books.com. So if you go to wha't.books.com or plexico.net, you can get anything. But Amazon has everything.
Now, how did you get all this put together? Because you're doing comic books now. And
Yeah.
If people talk about indie comics right now with their own publication company, two words come up: either Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your plan of attack on that?
Well, for Cold Lightning, we did a Kickstarter, raised several $1,000s to be able to pay the art talent. I didn't get any money for it, but I hopefully will get some once we get it in with Image. Once all 3 issues are done, we're going to take it to Image. We basically did it as just a big ash can. We did the first issue as like an ash can demo for our supporters that helped us to pay for the initial artwork, because we had the whole rest of the team, but I wanted a really good pencil artist, and so we went to Brazil and got Wendell Cavalcanti to do the artwork, and I'll show you like some of the here's a pencil of actually that's Dean Kotz's cover, but yeah, here's Wendell's pencils, and then Jared's inks right above it, so that you can see what we were, just look at the line work and the shading and everything in there is just mind blowing to me. So this was basically just a big ash can we did to reward all of our supporters on Kickstarter. The first half of the issue is the comic. You can see the super cool villain art there. And then the second half is special features that talk about the characters. There's like whole biographical pages on the characters and everything. So
everything you want to know about everybody in the universe is ready to go. We have got our host, Dapper Dave.
Hey.
Dyer is with us.
All right.
Dave is the owner of the shop. I'm going to move over here and let y'all squeeze into the camera.
Come around.
Put me wherever you need me.
Oh, you can get on the inside of me. We'll just
Right.
first one out. Let's out. Yuck. We're in trouble.
Little tight. There we go.
All right, Dave, you were talking to me before we got started here about stuff going on in the industry, and I guess we'll start with the sad news.
Well, this has been a busy week with lots of new titles and some shocking news that got everybody. And that was on Wednesday, issue 193 of The Walking Dead was released, and it was announced after it was released that was the last issue period of The Walking Dead. So that is right there. Most of you probably know it's sold out all over the world. This is 192. This is a commemorative edition of issue 192. I don't want to give it away for those people who don't know, but it's quite shocking what happens in both of these right here. So sad news there that The Walking Dead is over with. Show continues. I believe they're going to go through season 10, and then the show's probably going to wrap up. There's talk about them going into doing Walking Dead movies to kind of tie up some loose ends, especially the Rick storyline and Michonne. But that, once again, is on the show, the TV show, but the comic is over with. So also in sad news, looks like Mad Magazine is saying goodbye after 64 years, something like that. It breaks my heart. We were all talking about it earlier. Boy, we all grew up with that one.
Yes, you can now worry.
Yeah. So I believe they're doing 2 more issues, which we will of course have here. I would imagine that last issue is going to be a huge commemorative issue, and they'll probably bring back every artist that's ever done anything for Mad Magazine. And do a really nice farewell issue. But
they should have every major artist do their own
I agree.
cover.
I agree.
So get your Sergio Aragonés cover.
Yeah.
Do we blame Pete Buttigieg for this?
Why not? Why not? He's taking crap for everything else, right?
Right. Right.
So Dave, you said they can get it here. Some of our listeners are in California or New York. What would they do to reach out?
Oh,
to
you could totally call it. So we're Cosmic Comics, Games, and Collectibles. You can call us at 618-416-3115. You can also find us on Facebook at Cosmic Comics Belleville, Twitter and Instagram, both Cosmic Comics Belleville. We'll mail it to you. If you can't find it in your neck of the woods and I still have it here, pay for it securely over the phone. We'll ship it out to you. We do that all the time.
Now, how many people are going to come after that Walking Dead issue that you just
no one is going to touch that one.
Okay.
So, yeah, we got two phone calls yesterday back to back. People asking about that issue, and yeah.
Have there been prices reported yet? I mean, is eBay showing?
They're anywhere from $80 on up for that issue. So
you just never ever know.
Right.
I mean, we talked a lot before about comics being a bad investment these days because everybody's buying them as a collectible. But the thing is that, while everybody's buying up 20,000 copies of this book, the one that nobody's paying attention to pops out, and suddenly it's, everybody expected The Walking Dead to go to at least 195.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they were solicited 194 and 195.
Yeah.
And then, Dave, you can hand me that book that I brought in here.
This one here?
Underneath the phone there.
There you go.
This one here, did not expect anything to come out of an animated series adaptation. This was back when this was a 1993 book, and it was adapting the Batman animated series characters to their own adventures. But this one is the first appearance in comics of one Harley Quinn. And now this is being listed in Overstreet as a $600 book.
Wow.
So as you can see, I paid $2 for it as a back issue from a little backwater comic store in North Carolina. You can't predict these kind of things.
Isn't that Superman?
He went by so fast.
Well played, sir.
That was great. Everybody looked over there.
Well played.
Oh, thank you very much.
One of the other things that's coming up now is a Spawn 300, I believe.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge issue. Now, when I started reading Spawn, I thought one of the things that I did like about it, because there were several misgivings I had about the whole image startup thing. For one, I didn't think they had writers. I thought they had artists. But I like the idea of Spawn in that he had a limited supply of infinite power.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say, but it was like every time he used his abilities in the comic books, you saw the countdown decrement a little bit or a lot, depending on how much he used. And we're 300 issues in, and I've got to say, I have no idea how he's lasted this long without stopping for a refill.
Well, and that's the issue. I mean, it's a countdown to 300, and that's what they've been doing now for the last, I guess, 3 issues now, is that countdown to 300. So, but, like anything, we had to count down to Detective Comics 1000.
Right.
You remember?
Which is funny because they're count up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, everything to me seems like it's a ploy. I've been in this business for long enough to see that these little ploys pan out, and sometimes they don't at all. Big disappointment actually was Black Cat, which was released last month, and nothing. Everybody was talking about it, and nothing came out of it. So Spawn, I think it'll hit big, and then it'll level out. Everything does. Detective Comics leveled out. It's going to be that first week, and that'll be it.
So is the industry being propped up by these events?
Yeah, they totally are. Right now, we're getting ready. We just started the canonized covers. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but Marvel has taken every character, and the cover is them being canonized. So Carnage.
Oh.
Yeah. See, that's the moan, the groan I gave too.
Yeah.
So, and what that does is that forces every shop owner to get all these multiples of these covers. The next thing you know, I'm sitting on, 25 different versions of like a canonized Captain America, Captain Marvel, a canonized Spiderman, You name it, they're going to do it. And, they build that up and everybody starts trying to collect those covers. I have quite a few people go, I want all those covers, so.
And you have to buy something else in order for you to be able to get those covers.
Some of them, yeah. Well, some of those are like, the limit 1 in 25s and the 1 in 50s and 1 in 100s and that kind of stuff. So I've noticed, that never happened in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and even, in the 2000s is when they started to do a couple of special issues. But now it's like every flipping month there's something new that's coming around.
They've got to keep the energy pumping with an event.
And it's like the Spawn 300. We have so many different covers of that. So, you as a shop owner, you hope you can move all of those covers, and if you don't, then you're going to be having a Spawn sale.
Yeah, you have something on Halloween to throw out.
Yeah, exactly.
Had you seen much about this going on? Were you aware of that? All right, so Cinna Grace, for my friends here who are comic book experts and not in the know, wrote Iceman, and Iceman was a gay character, and there was much to be made out of that.
That's news to me, by the way. But okay.
Well, apparently, okay, let's catch Van up here. The teenage X-Men came from the past through time travel to the current age and met the current age X-Men.
You just explained why I haven't read the X-Men in 30 years, but in one sentence, you called up exactly to why. Boom! There was X-Men.
Oh man!
Teenage Bobby Drake is talking to teenage Jean Grey, and he's saying to her something about someone else. And she's like, "Bobby, just stop it," because he's flirting. He's like, "What?" She's like, "Come on." He's like, "What?" She's like, "Do I have to say it? You're gay." And he's like, "Wait, what did you just?" So this character whose thoughts we've literally been reading for 50 years, who's gone on several dates. No, it's no longer the case. And there's a conspiracy theory out there that basically Jean made him that way. Because she is a telepath.
All right, okay.
So he could be.
And would that be something she would think was important or
she was
desired, or
maybe she didn't think the team was diverse enough? They were only.
They're
only an international group of multiracial heroes and not diverse enough.
Different mutant powers. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, Iceman came out for a handful of issues, got canceled due to low sales, although it sold like gangbusters if you listen to Cena. So Marvel came back out with another re-release of it, starting with #1, and it didn't get canceled so much as it miraculously became a miniseries.
Yeah. Which just wrapped up a few months ago.
Which just wrapped up. And
did not sell well.
Did not sell well. Cinna Grace in his Tumblr post came out and basically said that Marvel was a bunch of cowards, that they wouldn't back up his work. That anytime he tried to go out to like the New York Times and drum up publicity for this character he was working on as a freelancer, they were pulling the chains and saying, "Hey, you can't go out and do this. We have to approve everything." I just thought it was very interesting that.
But on the other hand, they're doing this stuff that 10 years ago they wouldn't have done, and that other companies wouldn't necessarily do. So they're getting it from both directions. In other words, right? Like, one side is saying you're being too socially relevant and too daring and too controversial. Just tell good stories. And the other side is saying you're not doing enough. You're cowards. You need to go further. And so they're kind of trapped in the middle. It seems like
what Cinna was basically saying was that he needed to be assigned a special editor, and that he needed to be assigned a special projects PR person because he wasn't getting enough backing from Marvel. Meanwhile, in Marvel's defense, we're looking at how many issues of Iceman sitting on the shelf for 2 months that aren't moving anymore.
They weren't moving.
So
yeah.
I think they've parted ways. We'll probably see Cinna Grace working on some independence somewhere.
Probably did better.
He was actually writing characters pretty decent in Iceman, except for Iceman himself, and since he was the title character,
kind of
threw it out.
Interesting.
One of the things I love about coming here is that Dave is always turning me on to the new indie books. And there's so many #1 indie books that I didn't even know were out there. So real quick, before you get to your secret special project that I've kind of hinted you're back there, is that a plutonium shipment coming in? What indies are out there right now that are underrepresented and not being talked about enough, and what's coming up that we should want to know about. Hey, where did that come from?
Look, it's an indie. Yeah, you take this.
Thank you. Awesome.
Because
cool.
I just read White Widow, and while
Yeah.
I liked White Widow, the first 2 issues, it gave me that real Danger Girl feeling,
Mhm.
that feeling you got back in the 90s when you were reading all these new things.
Yeah.
But the more I look at White Widow, the more I'm like, please don't let anybody at Marvel read this book.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure Marvel has read it because it's been the talk of the town, so to speak, with White Widow 2 finally coming out. So White Widow, that same company also released Amped. So, and these are all low print runs on them.
And I think that's Absolute Comics.
Absolute Comics, thank you. Yeah. So there's that. The No Ones is another.
That was an excellent book.
Yep. So the thing with any of your independents is, they have to try to find a way to they're shoehorned in between your majors, your DC and your Marvel. And so, that's why I try to represent the independent ones a little bit more, because I want people to try to get their hands on there and help support these smaller companies as opposed to the big guys. 'Cause look, DC and Marvel aren't going to go anywhere soon. They'll be there forever, and they have been. So, but you got a lot of great writers who are working independent. You got a lot of great artists working independent. Obviously, we got this one here, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
Very good.
So, thank you for that. Great cover. Great cover. That's the other thing is I think a lot of the independent ones that are coming out, I think a lot of your up and coming artists start out there and then they work their way into DC and Marvel. And a lot of times I wish they wouldn't, because I think once you go DC or Marvel, you kind of get tainted. You really do. You're used to eating well, and then you kind of lose that. Maybe you lose a little bit of the passion.
You're not the starving artist anymore.
Exactly. Now, that being said, of course you want to make the big time, but right now I think there's really a good large amount of independent companies out there that are sprouting up. Absolute's one of them.
Cave
Publishing. Yeah, Cave Publishing, very small amount. Thank you. I'm totally drawing a blank here. It is Sunday, and I haven't had enough coffee today.
Well, you got
who are the guys? Alterna that do the newsprint?
Alterna,
Alterna does newsprint.
Yeah, they do Scrimshaw. Yeah, that's Alterna.
That's something that I think more people should really get into. I mean, I've read the Alterna books, and when I say read, they're completely readable. There's no need for me to say, hey, I don't have a Baxter shiny print glossy page.
Right. Well, in the companies like Zenescope, which is still relatively small, but they've got great artwork and great storylines, and they're doing the Grimm fairy tale stories, and they're doing they're
doing Thumbelina now, introduced to the GFT.
The new Oz, so they're more of the fantasy kind of stuff, that Gretel, so they love playing off the fairy tales.
Yeah, but bringing them into a modern world.
Yeah, bringing them in, and the chicks are sexy, and Gretel is sexy. So, but yeah,
that's what sells.
Well, yeah, it does. So,
well, I had to drag you out of the back room here because you are working on something top secret that we're going to make you tell the whole world about now.
Would it not be top secret anymore?
It wouldn't be top secret if I told it, but
you could actually, it's literally on our channel. You could give out the nuclear codes, and nobody would know them because we don't have 1,000 subscribers yet. So please hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.
Yeah. Make it more than 3.
We need to get 1,000 people on this thing so I can get the 3 cents of advertising revenue a month. Okay.
We'll do.
You hear?
We'll
thank you.
We'll publish links and all that. So, well, what I'm secretly working on is we're working on a script, a movie script for a reboot of The Shadow.
The Lamont Cranston, The Shadow.
Yes, The Shadow. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
So, what is the process for that? Because is he not still a Condé Nast publication property?
Next year, 2020 marks, and I forget what the anniversary is of it. I think it's 90 years, 90th anniversary. I believe he goes back up for public rights.
Public domain.
Yeah, public domain. Thank you. So we're looking into that. The thing is the guy who wrote The Shadow, there isn't really an estate for The Shadow, unlike Edgar Rice Burroughs, and Ray Bradbury and all of that, which makes it a little easier. So, but even if we can't retain any kind of rights, then we'll end up doing a fan film.
Okay.
All right, which I would rather be able to get some rights somehow. That way we can maybe have a larger budget and maybe get some good backing that way. If not, then we're going to do it fan film style, which means it comes out of a Kickstarter campaign. So, but
you heard it here first. We'll be Kickstarting.
Yeah. So yeah, and so we'll find out. We want to start lensing. We're writing the script right now. We hope to start lensing sometime in the first of the year.
So where are you going to shoot?
All in and around here.
So
Yeah.
the Shadow in Belleville.
Yeah. Well, it'll still be New York, but we'll make it look like we'll make Belleville look like New York. So yeah, and we're bringing them into modern times. So it's not going to be a period piece. It's not going to take place in the 30s and 40s. It's going to take place in 2020. And the idea here is that the Shadow is immortal because of the ability to cloud men's minds. And he didn't know that at the time, but now everybody that he's been around his whole life, they've all passed away. He's alone. He's by himself.
So he's been around since the 20s.
Yes, yes.
But now he's in. Okay.
He is currently 120 years old.
Looking good. Him and
Yeah.
Ra's al Ghul.
Well, and the idea here is he's calling himself Lamont Cranston Jr. because, of course, he couldn't be Lamont Cranston Sr. because he's still looks like he's in his late 30s, early 40s.
Keep willing your bank account to yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, and then we've got we're going to have the nosy reporter-esque kind of person there because our Lamont Cranston has been he's been retired now since 1988, and he's just alone. He hasn't been the Shadow since then.
There's no evil in the hearts of men.
Well,
he
just doesn't feel like he doesn't feel like the world needs the Shadow. He's a man who's out of time. And because he's lost everything that's ever been dear to him, he just doesn't have any self-worth anymore. And of course, we're going to have a evil villainess who brings him out of hiding, no pun intended, brings him out of the shadows, and then he takes on the mantle of the Shadow again. And then he finds out that that's what he always needed, was to be the Shadow again.
Immortal characters are a lot of fun.
They are.
And I don't think that the companies who have them take full advantage of them, but we're going to get movie posters so we can put this up on here as soon as you get something shot.
Mm-hmm.
And hang it in your store next to this other fan film that you were involved
it was called
Superman
Superman World War, done by Donald Callahan. And that was you can actually watch that on YouTube. And that's a fan film, and Donald did a good job with that. It takes place during, of course, the World War I. It's very Max Fleischer.
Yes.
Superman. So
scenes I've seen from him have been very cool looking, especially the outfit. But I've always wanted to get my hands on, if even for just like 2 issues, the Legion of Superheroes in the DC universe. Because I write. I'm currently the author of the Destroyer Bully Pulpit and the Destroyer Continental Divide, and soon to be the Destroyer Big Picture and Final Cut.
Well, and I believe the Legion of Superheroes are getting ready to make a brief.
They may be coming back with their mental illness haircuts and all.
Yeah.
Not quite sure. That shaved side of the head with a big mohawk.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an appearance in Superman, so we'll find out. So
it's crazy stuff.
I'm so out of touch. It's hard to stay. I'm with you, and I own a shop. It's very people are like, have you read this? I don't have time to read. That's the thing. Is I run the shop, and then go home. I eat. I go to bed. I get up and come back in there. And there's not time to sit down and read everything here. It's like when you had asked me, if I had read your stuff yet, and I'm like, it's all in the lineup of things to read. It's just a matter of when.
Water everywhere, and not a drop for drink.
Exactly. So it's tough. I wish I could sit down and read every issue that comes in. And I can't.
Well, I would love to just have the Legion do an old-fashioned museum heist. Just show up at it. Send in a couple of people, and they're getting their asses handed to them by whoever this guy in the shadows is. He's hitting them with all these antiques, and then have Dawnstar. You know, Dawnstar's the one with the wings.
Mhm.
Okay.
I know the Legion very well, thank you.
Legion was my favorite.
In all their incarnations.
Yeah.
And
I
when
know the
Dawnstar
Legion.
shows up, the fight stops because the guy who's swinging a mace at their heads.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's the next reincarnation of Carter Hall.
Right.
And before they can do anything with him, he's abducted away from the scene through magical means. And you would find that the whole time that the Legion Superheroes has been operating, there's been this shadow agency operating, consisting of the Spectre, the current holder of the Helm of Fate, Plastic Man, because he doesn't biodegrade.
Just turns into little micro pieces to get in our food.
But all of these characters that DC have who are immortal or at least legacy, there's always a new version, have been operating as sort of this justice society 1,000 years later. And since Carter Hall's supposed to reincarnate all the time anyway, well, why shouldn't they show up in the Legion? Now, they did do something like that twice. They did Darkseid with the Great Darkness saga back in the 80s. And they did, I want to say they did Ra's al Ghul in some version or another in the late 90s. But I don't know, it'd be fun.
We'll see what, like I said, Legion's going to come back into one of the Superman issues. They're going to come in here. So we'll see what they do this time around.
Well, they're technically involved in Doomsday Clock because Saturn Girl is running around in there, but we don't know why.
Right.
Dr. Manhattan has been messing around with the DC
and Doomsday
universe
Clock is just about to wrap up. I think there's
11 and 12 still to come out.
Yeah, 11 and 12, 2 more issues left. So yeah.
And if they're following
good series for those who didn't read that, read Doomsday Clock. I like it.
Yep. It's slow start.
Yeah.
But when it picks up, it really picks up.
Yeah.
And if they're following the original Watchmen series as closely as they have been, it's going to be about 3 months between these last 2 issues.
Yeah.
Because we'll just copy the publication schedule too.
Yep.
All
right. Let me get back to work. Hey,
get back to work.
Thanks,
man.
guys. Appreciate it.
We're going to take over and talk a little bit more about what's coming out from White Rocket Publishing.
Good deal.
That was Dapper Dave Dyer.
Dave.
He is going to be writing a script for The Shadow. So stay tuned for that. We'll have more news.
I had a comment about the Walking Dead thing.
Yes.
I'm
Look,
very.
we left.
Look, I left. I know nothing. I saw nothing. But
I gave him to his wife, 'cause I don't want him to
Kirkman, I couldn't care the least about The Walking Dead. I watched the first 3 seasons of the TV show, and by the 3rd season, I didn't care. Okay, I've never read the comic. But
I've never seen Game of Thrones, so I'm with you.
there you go. So, and everybody who hasn't, make sure they tell everybody that. I don't understand it. So, Robert Kirkman, who writes Walking Dead, right, owns the whole thing. He currently controls the right to do a Chronicles of Amber TV show or movie. And I'm wanting him to move on from the zombies. You've done plenty. And do Corwin and Eric and Gerard and Oberon and and Chaos.
You know what? I bet he didn't do that because Game of Thrones was out and it would be just too.
But now,
you got all these Game of Thrones hungry people who don't have anything to go to.
This the best. If you don't know what I'm talking about, get the Great Book of Amber or 9 Princes in Amber, anything involving Amber with Roger Zelazny, Zelazny. It's the greatest fantasy, sci-fi, alternate reality series ever, and Kirkman owns the rights to do something in live action with it. So I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting.
So where do you think that would be best served? In something like HBO or Sci-Fi Channel?
Well, everything would work best in HBO. Sci-Fi Channel would find a way to ruin it, as they always do. But I mean, everything can't be on HBO. So, but here's one good thing though. You know who Roger Zelazny, one of his best buddies, was?
Who's that?
George R.R. Martin. In fact, Martin took Zelazny to the hospital when he ended up passing away with cancer. He was the guy that took him to the hospital. So there's a real connection there. If George wanted to say, you know what you need to do next, now that I'm not taking up an hour of your programming or an hour and 40 minutes, whatever, I guess there's this other thing that, you could be doing, and that would be fantastic.
They could collaborate on that.
And you know who's another big fan of it is Neil Gaiman, who's currently doing Good Omens. So you got all these big power players out there that were huge, close with Zelazny, and they love that property. It's just a matter of time. You got to think until they they give us something with it. Something. Come on.
We need to talk to Patricia and get a panel on this.
Yeah.
Archon.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
would be a fun discussion.
Yeah. I've done Zelazny and Amber panels in Dragon Con like two of the last 3 years. So I'm always up for talking about the greatest science fiction fantasy writer of all time. Absolutely.
Well, what else have you brought in your goodies here? Because
we saw the Sentinels.
we've seen the Sentinels.
All right.
If you haven't seen the Sentinels, you should see the Sentinels. I've read the first 2 of those books, and they're fun superhero fiction read.
It's just fun, like cosmic superhero. That's the idea. I have another unrelated series called The Shattering, and one of the books in it is Hawk, Hand of the Machine. He's I always say this is like Justified in far future space. He's like Raylan. Raylan Givens has his black Lincoln Town car. Hawk's got his living spaceship, kind of like the original Star-Lord before they made him funny for the movies,
Yes.
And so that's Hawk. And then in that same universe, there's a trilogy. I only brought the first book, but there's this trilogy, the Legion trilogy. This is Legion 1, Lords of Fire. There's also Legion 2, Sons of Terra, and Legion 3, Kings of Oblivion, which won Novel of the Year a couple of years ago. And this is sort of military space opera sci-fi in the same universe as Hawk. And then another one I brought, in that same universe, there's a trilogy that goes Lucian and Baranak and Caroline. This is the one this is my most recent book that just came out a couple of months ago, called Caroline, Heart Cold as Ice. She's kind of like a cross between Wonder Woman and Sif from Thor,
Yeah.
And the story is kind of like, remember the Odin quest in Thor, where they were on the big wooden sailing ship going through space looking for Odin? Sort of similar idea here. And you can see that she does not mess around. She's pretty hardcore.
Those are some beautiful covers on
Yeah, Mark Williams, who's currently working for a gaming company out in Washington or Oregon, I believe. But he did all 3 of the covers. I didn't bring the other 2, but Lucian and Baranak and Caroline are a trilogy, and they're basically sort of Jack Kirby-esque cosmic gods, along the lines of like the old Marvel Thor, Celestials, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So and then completely unrelated from that, because I always knew I had a crime novel in me, but I just could never figure out how to do it. And then a couple of years ago, I finally found the hook, and that is 1965 Las Vegas Heist. They're aiming to knock over 1965 Sin City. It's 4 guys in St. Louis get together and take Route 66 down to Vegas in 1965. They actually do go and watch Thunderball at the theater while they're there in 65. And it's got a lot of, I did a lot of research for it. So it's true to life, all the cultural references in it and everything. Like they're reading, one of them's reading Avengers comics in the backseat of the car. And he's reading the new issue where Captain America forms the Kooky Quartet. The old order changeth or whatever, because that was that year.
Yes.
And so they are going to and Caesar's Palace opened in 66. So this is during the week of Christmas, New Year's of 65. They're going to break into Caesar's Palace right before it opens and steal all the money they have stashed away for the customers and everything. So this one won Novel of the Year in the Pulp Factory Awards this year. So Vegas Heist.
The man's raking in awards.
You
should be.
There's 3, yeah. So
you definitely want to be checking out this stuff. So what are you doing now? I mean, you figured out how to knock off Vegas, and you haven't decided to pull it off. So
I can do it if I can go back to 1965. See, the great thing about setting a crime novel back then is there's no computers, no electronics, no lasers. It's all it's all payphones.
It's a lot more brute force.
Yeah, it is. It's very much of a Donald Westlake, Ocean's 11 kind of a deal, as opposed to the old Ocean's 11, as opposed to having to do computer stuff and all. That's fine. I mean, I enjoy contemporary crime stuff, but it gets very complicated, because you have to deal with all the technology and stuff. And in 65, the technology was just, hot wiring a car or kicking down a wall with a sledgehammer. It was just, it's brute force, like you say. And so.
I can relate to the technology causing problems with your characters, because writing The Destroyer, Warren Murphy introduced the character in 1969. He didn't get it published in 1971, but there was no internet. There was none of that stuff now.
Exactly.
And now, the whole idea that they had the Cure computer that was analyzing bits and pieces of all this information all over the country, looking for things that be criminal. That is the internet. That is crowdsourcing.
That's right.
And any destroyer story that you come up with these days, first thing you had to do is watch Person of Interest, make sure it hadn't already been done. Because
right. I knew I didn't have a Michael Connelly or Ace Atkins type contemporary crime novel, but I thought I could do a period book, and I feel like so right now I am partly working on Miami Heist. This was 65 in Vegas. That's 66 same characters in Miami, South Florida.
You just spoiled the fact that they get away.
Oh, you don't know if they get the money or not, though.
Okay.
And you don't know if all of them live. So
fair enough.
Whoever gets it, whoever makes it out of, in fact, the very last line on the back cover is, before it's all over, Harper and Salsa will be lucky to escape Sin City with their lives. And there's a whole team, so you don't know if the whole team makes it out. And then in 66, whoever's left is going to try to. This was another research thing. I found out that there's an island off the coast of Florida, off the coast of Miami, that's the single most expensive piece of real estate in the country, and
Mar-a-Lago?
No, it's a little island named after the guy that invented headlights on cars. Believe it or not, he actually founded Miami Beach with the money he made from
Halogen Key. Yeah.
And so he, so it's a rich little island right off the bottom of Miami. And I thought, well, that's a great place to put a casino. And it's a great place to have maybe, because I found out that during World War II, a Nazi submarine shipwrecked off the coast of that island. And I said, well, the Nazis were always carrying around that illegal gold.
They were taking it to Argentina all the time.
Oh, yeah. See, so you know what might wind up on that island. So
that sounds awesome. Well, I don't know what more we can geek out about here for the next 13 minutes. But
did you see Spider-Man Far From Home?
I have not. Have you seen Spider-Man Far From Home?
I have, and it is awesome. It's so good.
We've seen Toy Story 4.
I saw that twice. Too. Yep, it's good.
And now my son thinks he's Benson.
Which one's that?
The ventriloquist. There he goes.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was creepy.
I was like, look, it's Slappy.
That was that.
I'm trash.
Yeah.
I'm trash.
But
yeah, that was pretty well.
So Spider-Man Far From Home is one we want to go see. I don't know if he's old enough for it yet, because I saw Spider-Man Homecoming and I was like, maybe not some of this stuff, but he wants to see Annabelle. I tell you.
Oh God, I have no desire to. I'm just not a horror person, but no, Spider-Man Far From Home I would say it's a good wrap up on Phase 3, right? It brings things to a nice, because Spider-Man is young and he's got a big future ahead of him in MCU, but it does a good job of kind of bringing all the stuff that's kind of left hanging at the Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought was always a huge impediment to the Spider-Man movies. Was the fact that they take so long to make, and people get older.
Yeah.
In the first Spider-Man movie, he was in high school, got a job, and went to college.
Yeah.
Whereas in the comic books, we had years of high school Peter Parker dealing with Flash Thompson and trying to get a date with Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy, and
then years of him in college for a long time. Yeah.
Empire State.
Yeah.
But I don't know how the Harry Potter people did it.
No,
I think they had to get
Daniel
Radcliffe when he was 3.
Yeah.
And just make him look
well. And you know what, too, though, is one of the things I like best about the MCU Spidey, and especially the new movie. And again, I don't need spoilers, but one of the things I like best about it is the supporting cast of Peter's friends in these two movies, in Homecoming and Far From Home, to me is perfect because they are young. They seem young. They look young. I was getting tired of 30-something-year-olds playing MJ and Gwen and the Osborn and all that. I like the fact that they look like they're in high school and they act like they're in high school. MJ is the most awkward character ever, and that's awesome because she would be.
Now, what do you think about that? MJ is not Mary Jane.
No, well, whoever she is, but she's MJ. I mean, that's who she basically is.
She used the same initial, but they did give her a name. I think it's like Michelle something.
Yeah. I didn't catch that.
It's one of those things that everybody gins up controversy about because she doesn't look like the character in the comic books. Well, I
she's fine.
mention that
great.
because
neither does Flash.
David Mazouz does not look like Bruce Wayne. But if you take any 5 issues of DC Comics and put them side by side, Bruce Wayne doesn't look like Bruce Wayne.
Well,
He's
there
just
you
a
go.
generic guy
Yeah.
with, brunette hair.
That's right.
But I bring that up because this week was the week that Disney announced, "Hey, here is our Little Mermaid for the live
Yeah, I
action."
saw that. Very cool. Very
And
cool.
she's a hell of a singer, but a lot of people are like,
Yeah, a lot of people are
Another
mad
redhead
about her
bites the
color because they want her to be green like she was in the original story.
"Yeah,
But I'm sorry,
Christian Anderson's
there's-
Green Little Mermaid."
There's not a lot of green women running around. You'll settle for this one.
Well, I've got Yvonne Craig's autograph, but not on her green woman photograph. I gave that
Nice.
to a buddy of mine.
Oh, the green. Yeah, that's true. If there's a green woman out there, you know who would find her is Captain Kirk.
That's right.
You send Kirk out
Has
there to
already
find
found
them
her.
to cast Little Mermaid. Done. We got it. We did it.
Plus the original Little Mermaid, Disney let her live. Come on now. That's not the way it's supposed to go. She dies at the end of the film. It's the whole point of the end of the story.
To do it.
Oh.
I could sing.
Well, a lot of stuff coming out in movies, a lot of stuff coming out in the comics. Definitely go hit up Amazon. Be looking for Cold Lightning as well as Vegas Heist. Now, is Amazon the only place? This is one from your website.
Yeah, come to Plexico.net because this is basically a promo ashcan thing we did for conventions. We're gonna when all 3 issues are done, we're gonna take it to Image, but we want to get all 3 issues done first because you don't want the long delays. And we've been working on this for like 2 years, so it's a good thing we're getting the whole thing done before.
Well, take it to Indiegogo because I've been watching those things take off, and like people like Ethan Van Sciver, who's obviously a name. But he's pulling off like $800,000 on a fraud comic book. But there are other people out there who are pulling in $8,000 to $12,000, getting financed within 30 days.
Well, that may be what we end up doing with Pulsar.
Is
she upside down? Yep,
she's upside down.
There she is.
She looks just as good either way.
Lynn, yay! So excited about it. Jennifer Stolzer artwork on that. Wendell Cavalcanti on the other to give the credit where it's due. It's so fun working with artists that have that kind of ability to take your script and just make it look great.
I can't draw a stick figure. I love art directing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because I always think, I'm going to make you draw this 7 times. I'm going to keep the first 6 because they look so cool. Anyway, thank you everybody for stopping by. We'll get the links out here so that everyone can re-enjoy this podcast. And we will be back here in Cosmic Comics in Belleville. Ben, you're welcome to join us if you want.
Hey, thank you. It was great to be on board.
First Sunday of every month at 2 p.m. Central Time here at Cosmic Comics on Main Street in Belleville. Hit them up on Facebook at Cosmic Comics Belleville. And definitely place your orders. If there's something you can't find anywhere else in the world, look here. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.